One more question before we do. So these strikes, the killing of civilians, the 5 outposts that we're seeing inside Lebanese territory, how is all this compatible with the UN Security Resolution 1701, with international law? And I see Mr. Doyle has his hand up, so maybe you can answer that.
I was actually going to come on to 1701 because it would appear that, I think it was the 8th of January, the Prime Minister of Lebanon announced that south of the Litani, Hezbollah was no longer operational, and the Lebanese armed forces had sole monopoly of power. Now, largely, I think that's true. There hasn't been evidence to say that it's, not. And I think that what we do not see is, on the other side, some reciprocal measures on behalf of the State of Israel, either to remove its forces from the 5 positions that it holds in Lebanon, to stop the violations of the ceasefire. It's a ceasefire in name only, but even reduce them. But in fact, they've been escalating in the last few months. So I think that we're way short of this. And it troubles me also that in 12 months' time, the UN mechanism to verify and check this UNIFIL, it reaches the end of its mandate. And we have no idea what will go in its place, which to my mind is crazy, given, if you look historically, as what has happened across that border, that you don't have a responsible international mechanism to try to deconflict, try to cool matters, which UNIFIL in the past has done on many occasions. So I think that's very important. Just briefly on what Daniel said on fragmentation, it has been actually a long-term Israeli aim within Lebanon, going back to the days of Ben Gurion, to try to fragment Lebanon, to reach links, particularly with the Maronites. This is not new, and it has been approaching also Syria in a similar vein. It has undermined the new central authorities. It has tried to support the Kurds, the Druze, also to prevent a strong, unified state within Syria. In terms of disarmament and where are the weapons, they've been obviously the strategic weapons, the main ones probably hidden in the Bekaa to the north. It's going to be very difficult to get to this disarmament. So we've got this problem coming up because getting Hezbollah out of the south is one thing, but how do you get to disarm Hezbollah without, who is going to do this? The Lebanese armed forces aren't strong enough, but also if you get the Lebanese armed forces to do this and you push them, as some are trying to, then you are putting them in an unenviable situation because they're meant to be a national institution that is meant to be there to defend all Lebanese regardless of identity, and they will be pushed towards what will be seen as a civil conflict. So we need to be very wary of that. It will be devastating to Lebanon. I think the final thing I'll just mention is also the push, particularly by the Americans and also the Israelis, to normalization of relations, actually both with Syria and Lebanon, way before 2 pretty weak governments, populations that are still traumatized, that are still coming out of conflict and economic trauma, are ready for it. I think that we should be looking at how do you get to a situation of non-aggression and various deconfliction agreements, but without pushing them much faster than politically they can afford to do at this juncture.
I want to ask Richard to ask some follow-up questions because we're going from one of our military experts to the other now.
Chris, you talk about how this could be really quite difficult if the Lebanese armed forces seek to remove and decommission weapons from Hezbollah. Elsewhere where we've seen a monopoly on armed force, a monopoly on violence happen in pursuit of stability, that's happened because there's been an integration of militias, of fighters into some sort of, they might maintain their identity, but they are part then of the national armed forces. So how is this disarmament and demobilization program different?
Well, I was referring to a situation in which it would be done by force. The alternative would be some sort of political agreement where, as you say, that those who've been fighting with the Hezbollah could sign up to the Lebanese armed forces. Bear in mind that Hezbollah pays more. Historically, you don't get paid very much in the Lebanese armed forces, so there's that issue. Hezbollah is a provider. But when you look at this, you've got to have a way in which you're going to convince Hezbollah to do this. There's going to be a lot of fears within the Shia community. So we give up our weapons, but Israeli forces are still bombing every day. They're still occupying Lebanese territory. That will be, you can argue, the excuse that they will hide behind, but it actually will attract some degree of sympathy amongst supporters. That if we are going to make such a move, we need to see progress. Now, there is a catch here as well, that if Hezbollah is still armed and you open up discussions about political reform in Lebanon, then Hezbollah will be an armed actor with a disproportionate weight in discussing how the cake will be shared up in Lebanon. They would like to see more Shia representatives in the Lebanese parliament. So it's a very difficult process there of trying to persuade Hezbollah, and a divided Hezbollah leadership, a much weaker Hezbollah leadership, let's face it, to do this. And it, rather than pressing to timetables, etc., I think to appreciate that there has to be a political negotiation, that this would be better if external forces were outside of Syria, outside of Lebanon, and that this could be resolved internally within